Welcome back. So Bungie released the developer insights for Marathon. They went over the classes in Marathon. It's been a while since we've talked about it. I played the alpha. I was incredibly disappointed in it. I thought it was the most stock standard copy and paste extraction shooter you could possibly get, with only bit of soul in it was the artwork, and that was stolen. And a lot of people didn't like the art, the style either, right? It didn't do well with the alpha. I actually made a video at the time saying Arc Raiders saved it because it kind of showed you what a casual extraction shooter should look like. They delayed it and it's coming out in March, and it is slowly gaining traction now. The positive ratings are improving for Marathon, and this video also has some pretty good positive ratios on it as well. Let's go over the classes. I still want to mainly talk about, I think, the hurdles Marathon needs to get over, but also some of the positives about it, its points of difference, why people might choose Marathon over something like Arc Raiders or other extraction shooters. This is not my first extraction shooter. Arc Raiders was not my first extraction shooter. I saw a comment saying, oh, this must be your first. No, it's not. I played the most obscure extraction shooters as well. I've done nearly everyone that's come out. I even did Mecha Break game modes. I did Dark and Darker. I've done The Hunt. I've done Cycle Frontier. I did Grey Zone. I did Delta Force. La 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 la. I fell in love with extraction shooters with Escape from Tarkov. I also fell out of love with them with Escape from Tarkov, and Arc Raiders has been the first one to come back into my life and got me back into extraction shooters. Right. So one of the things I spoke about is build crafting, talking about cores, implants, and chips is kind of something else they spoke about previously, but just to give you an idea of what they're going for, they talk about like a foundation of all these things working together. A good example was a core called Blast Off. It allows the Vandal class, which has got like this knockback beam or knockback cannon. Yeah, knockback cannon. It shoots out a ball and it like knocks enemies back. You can knock enemies off the roofs. Pretty cool. This core like modifies that so you don't do self damage, and you can use it as like a movement tool, and you can blast yourself around the map. You could then combine that with an implant called Graceful Landings, and then when you land from a high height, you actually do damage to hostiles. And this is just kind of a basic example of how you might combine the cores with implants. Chips, the examples I've seen of chips are more like generalized. I saw one, I think it was on their YouTube Shorts or TikTok, called Torch Bug. It was Destiny players would recognize it, an explosion after killing an enemy. And also one chip was called Afterburner. Sliding with this weapon reloads a portion of your magazine and also increases stability and accuracy. If you've played Destiny for long as I have, you'll probably see some similarities here. Right, I'm going to talk about build crafting in a moment. I think it's probably the greatest point of difference for Marathon, and if they don't get it right, it could also be the reason why they fail. Let's talk about the classes before that though. The Destroyer class, Destiny players would think instantly of a Titan using Twilight Garrison. Every class has like three main areas: a prime ability, which is like a super, a tactical ability, which is like an active ability you've got to activate, and then like a trait, which is like your passive ability. They don't always fit into that mold because some of them have like multiple traits, or yeah, sometimes it'd be like a movement tech in the trait itself, but that's just the general structure, right? So the Destroyer class is like a Titan with like Twilight Garrison. You actually got boosters, you can go forwards or even to the side. Its prime ability shoots rockets when you lock onto someone. Its traits are the thrusters, and its tactical ability is a right shield. The next class was Assassin. This is essentially an Invis Hunter. Its prime ability sends out discs of smoke, and that interacts with its passive ability, which makes you invisible in smoke. So you just throw a bunch of smoke, go invisible, and its tactical ability allows you to go invisible as well. It also has like a dive bomb. I don't know what the dive bomb counts as. I can't remember. I remember it being a little bit odd in the alpha because it had two things you can do. Don't know if it counts as a second tactical ability, but you can do a dive bomb, negates fall damage, also sends out smoke, makes you invisible. It's an Invis class. It's the Assassin class. The counter to that, the Recon, what they call the Fun Police class, its prime ability, its super, is essentially wall hacks for AI and players, so you can detect assassins. Its tactical sends out a drone. It tracks enemies and explodes and overheats them. The overheat mechanism is basically stamina, so that it slows them down. They can't use some. Does it impact abilities? I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's like a stamina meter, overheats them. Its trait, I don't know if this is technically a trait, but when you break shields, it leaves footprints, and also has an awareness trait. If you get pinged, you know about it. The Vandal is the movement class. Its prime ability, Overloads, allows you to do more movement stuff, more movement tech. Its tactical is that knockback cannon I talked about before, which you obviously can modulate with, you know, cores and, not chips, cores and implants. I didn't write down any of its traits. They're probably all... Oh, it's got like a slide and a double jump, right? I'm assuming that would be its trait abilities, its passive abilities. The next class was the Thief, what they branded as the Loot Goblin. You have a pickpocket drone, which is your prime. It goes... You can pilot, you can like whip players and knock loot out of them and then suck it up and run away or fly away in the drone. Its tactical ability allows you to see loot containers through walls. And you can also see enemies in line of sight, so a little bit different from the Recon class. You're seeing containers and only enemies if you have the line of sight of them. And then also it basically has a grapple strand, has a strand grapple, has a grapple hook. If you play Destiny, it's basically the strand grapple hook from that, and that recharges and improves the more your loot, the more your backpack is full of loot. So going into that loot goblin mindset. The last one is triages for support players. You can defib players from a distance, or like a small distance. I think that's its prime ability. Tactical is you send out a bot, a little support drone. It gives shields and health to friendlies. And then it has two traits. Battery overcharge makes your weapons better for battery weapons. Also does an EMP on kill, I think. And then also a share consumable. So if you have a bot on a friend and you use a heal, they also get the heal. And finally, they talked about Rook, and this is their like free loadout class. You go in, it does have a tactical ability. I don't know if it's got more than just a single tactical ability, but the tactical ability makes it a lot like Escape from Tarkov, which allows you to blend into enemies. So the enemy AI won't shoot you when you activate this tactical ability, and you can blend in with them. It doesn't cost you anything to use. It does only spawn you into solo matches, so a little bit different from Arc Raiders as well, and you only get late spawns in as well with Rook. It really feels like Rook is a lot weaker than the taking in a full kit, a custom kit, because you don't have all the other abilities to go with it. You're not like Buildcrafting. So it does feel quite a bit weaker than something in Arc Raiders, in the free kits you get in Arc Raiders. Right. What do I think will make or break this game? I do think the Buildcrafting is the point of difference. It's something that if they can get right, it will have a big point of difference over the other extraction shooters. I think the balancing with something like the Buildcrafting is really, really tough in extraction shooters when you lose your gear. Just for example, let me just ping this question at you, right? How many matches, how many runs do you think you have to do to make a okay build, a semi-decent build, a god tier build? Right. Let's say to start making a build, what if it's 2 or 3 runs? But the thing is, there's like 6 classes. So let's say you prefer the Invis class, but you're getting items for a different class, right? You might not even get the items you need to make a build for the class you want. Like, how long does it take to make a build? And I think, especially for like Bungie fans and Destiny fans, I think they're going to be quite, not against, like they're going to want to make builds. How quickly can you make a build? If you make it too quickly, you get balance issues. You get things very broken very quickly. Let's talk about the Invis in a second. If you make it too hard, everyone's just going to like keep everything in their vault and never use it, right? So there needs to, and I think that if they can get that right, and I don't even know what that looks like until I start playing it. I'm hoping I'll get in and I'm like, oh, that's cool, and I'll just start slotting stuff, and it will naturally change the way I play, and it won't feel like a grind. If it starts feeling like I need to grind to get this specific thing to make a specific build, and then I'm just terrified to go out and use it, then I don't know if that's going to work. So that's thing number 1. I think Buildcrafting will make or break Marathon, and that depends on how easy or hard it is to get the loot. And I feel like it needs to be right in the middle. Not too easy, not too hard, just right. I think the other thing that will make or break Marathon, and it's just why we probably don't see hero classes and extraction shooters very often, is balancing those things, especially Invis. Invis is like always the most, the only thing that's more broken than Invis in video games is freezing abilities, stasis, right? So I played another game for quite a while, actually, Dark and Darker, which is like a dungeon extraction shooter. It's like a melee dungeon extraction shooter. And there was a thief class in that you can go invisible, and they could never really balance this class. It was either complete rubbish or it was so overpowered. It got to a point where it was like a glass cannon, but you could just stay invisible. You can build into the invisibility, and then if you got the jump on someone, they were just dead, straight off dead. Like you'd win, you'd like almost automatically win the encounter, and it was incredibly hard to balance those invis. Maybe not so hard, maybe less hard in Marathon because you have those hard counters with like Recon, and you also have weapons, so it's not like a melee game, whereas Dark and Darker, like everyone was in close quarters, so you could literally hear someone coming in the door, go invis and just wait for them to come through and then backstab them and do like huge damage. I still think though, invis is going to be the problem child for balancing. And what I think could be a big issue is what happens in hero shooters, whereas like I need X class to counteract Y class because Y class is too strong. Right now that seems like I need Recon to counteract the Assassin class because Assassin can just sneak around, go and viz, get the revives without any, consequence. So I hope that doesn't happen, but it is, I think, a concern with balancing the heroes. It's cool seeing 6 different heroes though, 6 different classes. So, we'll see how that goes. And I think the way to go is just to make everything broken. And a lot of the classes do feel pretty good. Like they have different abilities that feel pretty strong. So hopefully they all feel equally broken. And there's not this, I need X hero to counteract Y hero. Right. If they can get that build crafting right, combined with the classes, they do have a really strong point of difference. It's also a first-person shooter, and I think they're in a really good spot to compete with Arc Raiders. Well, not even compete with Arc Raiders. I think they can coexist, because I think at that point, they're very, very different games. I think Arc Raiders is going to be my game that's a little bit more PvE focused, a little bit more social, get to chat to people, big bosses, and Marathon is going to be more like, I just want to shoot everyone. It's a PvP game, I just want to PvP and level up that way. I do like Marathon's approach to free loadouts with Rook. I think I actually prefer that style. I prefer the flow of maps with that style. It's very similar to Escape from Tarkov. If you've never played Escape from Tarkov, it's kind of like you end up learning all the spawns of a map, and you end up learning how many players spawn on a map. It's a little bit metagamey, but what happens is when you go into these really high level areas, you start counting like how many players you think are still around here, and you start counting where the spawns are from. And what it means though is if you win these areas, if you win these encounters, you end up going, okay, I think there's only like 2 teams left and they're probably on the far side, so I have time to breathe, I have time to loot, and then we can get out of here. And we should be watching northwest because that's where they're going to come from, because we've killed this spawn and that spawn. Arc Raiders, you'd never really get that. Arc Raiders has, if you're in PvP lobbies, has a really high tension the entire time, because anyone can spawn between 30 minutes and 17 minutes, custom gear and free loadouts. I think Marathon's going to be a little bit more like Escape from Tarkov, where you go, yep, I know spawns here, spawns here, spawns here. I'm going to try wipe the spawns, get some gear, and then the only thing we have to worry about then is the late spawning rooks. And I do think they're going to feel very weak. You do take in a preset kit, which looks like a pistol. They're not going to have all the other abilities that your normal class does. So it does seem like you're going to be able to prey upon a Rook. And that's kind of how they were talking about it in the insight. Like, are you going to pity the Rook and give them some loot, or are you going to smash them? So I do think that is a more balanced way to do free kits. They just go in, they have to scavenge. They are really underpowered compared to everyone else on the map. And they also get a late spawn. And I kind of like how that sets up the flow of an extraction shooter. Overall comparison to Arc Raiders, I kind of spoke about this. I think there's room for both of them. I think Marathon will be a little bit more PvP, Arc Raiders a bit more PvE. I think Marathon has definitely improved on the environment and the feeling and the world. A lot of people are getting excited about that. I still think their biggest downfall will be the enemies, unfortunately. I don't think you can really compete to the enemy design in Arc Raiders and the epicness of that. I hope to be wrong, but I think the enemy design still looks more like humanoid, and less complex than something like Arc Raiders, and that will just in general encourage more PvP rather than these PvE activities. Although they have been talking about these more PvE activities and like raid-like encounters or puzzles for their end game map, which is on the marathon itself. It was like Crypto Archives, Cryo Archives, something like that. I think Marathon has a potential to make loot really exciting if they get the build crafting right, and to really feel that anxious tension of finding something really cool and you want to get it out because it's like the centerpiece of a build. I don't really feel a lot of like loot anxiety with Arc Raiders. I think that's completely fine too. Like I like how Arc Raiders is casual like that, and the only time I really get anxiety is like when I'm on a free kit and I can't put a blueprint in my safe pocket and I really want to get out with it. That's when I get that real tension in Arc Raiders. But I think you could probably get, I think Marathon's going to have more of that if they get the build crafting right, finding loot. I think both can easily coexist. I am definitely more excited about Marathon. I'm getting sucked into the Bungie hype train as usual. You think I'll be better at this after 10 years, but here we bloody are. I'll obviously give it a shot, give it a crack, see how it goes. And I think both could be on my roster of games that I play and really enjoy. All right, like and a comment, greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.